flawless experts who have all the answers. That's not this podcast. Instead, we chat with professionals who love what they do, have wisdom to share, and can laugh at their own mistakes. I'm Marc, and I'm the host of the WorkPlay Solutions podcast. So let's laugh, learn, and discover the joy of work. Boo, boo, boo. All right, how you guys doing today?
I get that question sometimes. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing good. But like, I'm doing really, really well today. I saw Top Gun last night, bro. Have you seen the new Top Gun yet?
It's so good.
It is. Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the whole
all
details.
the spoilers for all the listeners, including
Sean
me.
hasn't seen
I haven't seen it. So
Sean's mad. And Mark, why don't you and I have an hour discussion about Top Gun and have Sean feel left out? That's how good I feel today.
All I'll say, this isn't a spoiler, was I expected it to be like 90% fueling Tom Cruise's ego and 10% nostalgia with 9% nostalgia with about 1% plot. And I was pleasantly surprised it wasn't that. If you saw the remake of Independence Day, it was not that garbage.
There were so many things. There's so many things when artistically you can recreate something and you give a nod to the history of the thing. But you don't say, now we're about to do the thing. There were 4 or 5 moments in there. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
It was either a statement or a twist of a statement, but they didn't have to actually like say, oh, this was, it was just great. It was great. I can't wait to see it again. It was awesome. So Sean, I know you'll probably see it sometime soon, but until then.
Sometime in the next year, I'll see it.
My wife and I did a day date in order to see it. So we didn't have to worry about kids. I am here today with Billy and Sean. Billy, Boughey, and Sean. Do you say it Specie or Specie? How do you?
Specie. I'm in. My family's in danger.
Okay.
We're trying to repopulate the earth.
Okay.
So.
Billy and Sean Specie, both of Elevate Experiences. Billy is the founder and president, and Sean is the chief strategy officer. And I'm very excited. This is a first for our podcast, having 2 guests at the same time. So if we have,
this might be the last, bro. This might be the last.
He's like, I'm never doing that again.
If you watch it, this is the only time it's ever going to happen. I think we should just interrupt each other the whole time and just talk trash to each other. That'd be fun. That increase your viewership.
Wait, let me pause you right there and say something. Just kidding.
No,
I was already starting the interruptions. I was already starting it. So
I do that naturally, so I don't need any encouragement. So we like to start the show off with an icebreaker. And before I ask the icebreaker question, do you guys have a better word than icebreaker or something that y'all use? Because I think I still feel cringy about even saying that word.
You know, there's 2 cringy words, 3 cringy words. The first cringy one is DJ.
Okay.
Nobody actually jockeys discs anymore, right? Icebreaker, because it feels way youth group. And then the last one is the Macarena, which nobody likes that anymore.
I was wondering what the third one was going to be.
It was either going to be chicken dance. Is either going to be chicken dance that, but you know, we call it a moment of engagement. Like when we're talking corporate moment of engagement, getting somebody's hearts and minds engaged with it. But icebreaker is what we, you know, the practical outworking of it is what it is. But it does feel cheesy, like it does. But everybody loves it when it happens. But to sell it is tough. That's what we found.
Okay.
Yeah, game activity icebreaker. So that's actually kind of our niche. Elevate Experiences on YouTube that we found is icebreakers. And so it's funny, like even bringing it up, like we'll talk about it to clients as moment engagement, but there's no Google search. Nobody's typing in moment of engagement for my event.
Yeah.
On not yet, right? We're gonna spread the word, one podcast with 3 people at a time. But if you go to Google, like the search is icebreaker, game, activity, something along those lines.
Okay, that's fair. All right, so we're gonna go from the deck number 36. My first concert experience.
I think mine was like a band called Third Day when I was in high school. That's like one of the first one that comes to mind. I went with a friend. I don't even remember like what songs they played. I just remember that I went to it. It was some smaller venue in Gainesville, Florida. It was pretty unremarkable, unfortunately. Sorry if you're a huge Third Day fan.
I am.
I don't even know if that's the actual band, but
it is. I was actually Mac Powell is the lead vocalist for Third Day, and I got to be in a small group Bible study with him for about 4 years.
Oh, wow.
And man, they're just authentic as the day is long. So the concert might not have been awesome that you went to, but they are.
The people are
great. They're old school, classic. Mine, I'll never forget it. I sat to the left of the stage I literally watched this woman dominate the stage. And yes, I sang all the songs. It's Janet Jackson. Miss Jackson, if you're nasty, as she would say. But man, Janet Jackson concert was I talk about it all the time, how just the smoke and the lights and the moments and her engagement and breaking the fourth wall and getting connected to the audience, like it was just, all of it was great. So that was my not favorite concert, but first concert.
Okay. I like to answer my own question. So I'm thinking back, similar to Sean's story, it was a small indie Christian rock band, actually a ska band, the Orange County Supertones.
Yes.
And so...
Yes, bro.
So back from that era, and it was in like a small Presbyterian church or something. You know, it was one of those shows that had like 50 people in it, but a lot of fun. I'm dating myself saying ska, so.
That's so good. And I want to share one other concert that I saw. I got to see Marc Broussard do a concert in Atlanta. Incredible artist. Never really like hit it really big, but incredible vocalist. He had this lady open up for him, and it was in this old pool hall, like imagine smoky pool hall, like maybe 15 people there. And this girl got on piano and started playing, and she was singing. I was like, oh, snap. Like everybody stopped and looked at her, and it was Sara Bareilles. We all know where she went, but that was one of her first little like opening tours was for Marc Broussard. And so I got to see her, and I remember standing there with my arms crossed going, oh, this is going to be different. Like she's going to be big. So that's one of my little fun stories that I got to see her before she was a big hit.
I should have mentioned this already, but today we're going to be talking about creating remarkable experiences. So things like, how do you create remarkable experiences? How does Elevate approach event planning? What do you do during the event to maintain that party-like atmosphere, and those kind of questions, and honestly, whatever you guys want to talk about. So before we get into that, let's have you guys tell us a little bit about your background. And I don't know how this is going to work because there's two of you, but who are you and what do you do? And then we can use that to introduce what Elevate does.
I immediately had this mental image from the movie Zoolander, where he looks into the puddle and he goes, "Who am I?" And his reflection goes, "I don't know." So Billy, who am I? You get to go first.
Wow. I'm a dreamer. I'm a storyteller. I believe in the underdog. I believe that there's a part of all of our stories that we want to hide. I came from a family, it was a tough upbringing. Parents divorced when I was young. Mom had 3 jobs to get by. I was a turnkey kid, made my breakfast, lunch, dinner myself. Barely had enough money to get by. Like it was tough childhood in a lot of ways. But man, I'm so thankful for it. Incredible mom and dad that fought for me to have the best things that they could provide. Got a chance to play college baseball and professional baseball, and throughout my career, I've always been a bit of that last scene of 8 Mile kind of flow, where Eminem kind of like bears all of his stuff and says, "Here it is." And I just love that underdog vibe. So that's a bit of, if you were to describe me, that would probably be a bit of my story. Fast forwarding into now, I'm grateful to be a business owner, entrepreneur, husband, and father of 4 kids. I have a 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And I spend a lot of my days just falling more in love with my family, love them, and very, very grateful that Elevate began with this idea. And the reason our brand is a blue color, because I just believe in blue skies, blue oceans, opportunities. I just believe in that. And it's a wing as well. It's why our brand is an actual wing, is we really want to help give people wings. You know, I love Red Bull and help you give your wings, right? It's a bit of that idea. So I spend a lot of my days really trying to figure out, how can I give this idea or this person wings? And I've been successful in my career by doing that, and not always doing it great, but figuring out one day at a time. So I'm a hustler. I'm an underdog, and someone that is, if I were to identify from a sports perspective, I'm definitely the biggest Atlanta Braves baseball fan that you'll meet. I do want to own the Atlanta Hawks one day, and I do like the Falcons, but like, I don't know, man, Tom Brady just sort of, I mean, it was a knife in the chest. It was like a slight turn, and I just don't know if I could be, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can rise up again. I'm trying. That's me.
Awesome. All right. What about you, Sean?
Sean Specie, born and raised in Gainesville, Florida. So if you're out there listening, go Gators. And then I went to University of Central Florida, which is where my true allegiances lie now. Go Knights. I met my wife in Jacksonville, Florida, which is almost 10 years ago to the day. Coming up on my 35th birthday, it'll be 10 years today that my wife and I met. And Hi, Billy. Billy's recording this on TikTok right now.
Yeah, I'm going to put this on Instagram right now. This is awesome. This is like so meta. We're recording a podcast live, but
I love it. I grew up. What's fun about my story for creating experiences? I grew up on a lake outside of Gainesville, Florida. My parents had 13 acres on this lake outside Gainesville, and every 4th of July, Labor Day weekend, Memorial Day weekend, birthday, pretty much every time we could, we would always have people over to our place, and we would teach people to wakeboard and water ski, and it would take about a full day, like half the day Friday, half the day Saturday. We would be getting ready. People would start to show up around noon. And so it's just kind of ingrained into who I am and my upbringing of this hospitality, yes, but also like creating experiences. I mean, fireworks, cooking food, slip and slide, like all the kinds of lake things. And that's just how I grew up. And so then fast forward, I met Billy in 2012. Actually, 2011, I met Billy, and he launched the brand of Elevate in 2012. And as soon as he launched it and he like presented it to a small group of people, I was like, yes. I was like, I don't even know what I need to do to be involved, but yes, I'm in. So I bought a polo. I've got it hanging up in the other room. I probably should have worn it for this, but
yeah, you're one of you bought a polo. Like
I bought the first like. Now. I know, that's why I'm so proud of it. I bought my first polo from Elevate. It was a Nike polo with like the gray collar, the OG polo. And I volunteered for my first event, stayed in touch with Billy throughout it while I was working at a different company, helping create experiences for elementary, middle, and high schools year round, and would do contract work with Billy on the side. And when I saw that Billy was starting to hire people back in late 2015, 2016, I said, well, my wife and I were living in Phoenix, Arizona at the time. We were like, hey, we want to move back to the East Coast, and this is a great opportunity to do something that I love doing for a brand that I've just always supported since the inception of it. I wrote a 3-year plan and a job description for myself, and I said, hey, Billy, you should hire me. And I was the 3rd person hired, and I'm still at Elevate. That was about 6 years ago now.
Nice. Help us understand what Elevate does, kind of what's y'all's jam.
Yeah, so I'll dive into this one. It's been really a fun activity to redo our website. We're right in the middle currently, so when this releases, we might have our brand new site already out, but we've been wrestling with a copywriter on how do we boil down into a statement, sort of taking Donald Miller's StoryBrand idea and getting it to be the guide of the story. The client is the hero. And there's been several phrases that have emerged. The one I think that has been resonating most is we create events people love. That has been sort of a bit of a tagline. This idea of designing events to help people and teams thrive is another one. So when you think about a moment in time, and you think about gathering your people together, how do we make this event fun? How do we make it connected? How do we do an icebreaker that's not cheesy? How do we really make this message come to life, not just for our customers, but for our team members? And Elevate began by me wearing some red Converse All-Stars and being on stage at an event called the Chick-fil-A Leadercast and hosting a big event there before Elevate was even a brand. And I met Cathy, and John Maxwell, 2 really great people to meet when you're starting a business, and made them look really good on stage, and took a 20-minute window when they didn't think I could get a bunch of business people at 9 a.m. to get excited, but got the entire room fired up and dancing and pumped up for this event. And Cathy pulled me aside and said, hey, can you come on this 25-city tour that I have to help operators inject some energy in Chick-fil-A restaurants? And I was like, yeah, sure. And the really fun story is for the first 18 months, we did not charge Chick-fil-A. So literally I traveled around the country and did not send them one invoice. I'm really proud of that because I invested into myself. I believed in me. If anybody I'm going to bet on myself. And I just saw this part of the event world where there was audio visual people, and then there were like producer people, and then there were event planners that did like the decor and those things. But the minutia of what happens on stage and how do we get the crowd excited and how do we take the run of show and the audio visual and make that come together? That is what Elevate is. And so we've been that for 10 years and very grateful that as we've grown our team, we swelled up to 21 people working at our organization just before the pandemic. And then we can get into that part of the story where our business just absolutely went away, basically, because nobody was getting together. Then we had to retool and refigure out. And a lot of prayer and laying on our face and pleading and not really know what we're going to do next. And very grateful that I never want to say we're coming out of a pandemic, because I think that we will never go back to the way that it was. But I think the essence of loving on people, encouraging them, inviting them into environment is what Elevate was. And I think we've gotten even better since then of just that being our dead set focus. So that's a bit who we are.
Okay. I know I've gotten to experience Elevate events through my role when I was at my previous organization with WinShape Foundation, and also got to attend, what was the virtual summit y'all did? What was that called?
The Elevate Summit, man.
Yeah. I was amazed. It was definitely the first and only virtual event I've ever been to that had a DJ, like a real one.
You've ever heard, those who watch it, have you ever heard anybody say that they were amazed at a virtual event? That is very encouraging to use that word.
But it's like, these guys are just operating at an ultra high level, and I love what y'all stand for. And there's just so much overlap, because our tagline is "Life is too short for work to suck." So we are all about
Amen.
having folks have joy and fun and purpose at work. So let's talk about experiences. So how do you go about creating remarkable experiences? Are there components or necessary pieces of an event? What's your secret sauce to a great event?
It's a big question. We could spend a lot of time. I'm going to share a small story, and then Sean, I'd love for you to dive in a bit more of how we do that at Elevate, but I'll just share a quick story that sets up the difference between the word event and experience. We think those words are very different, because our brand began with the name Elevate Live Events. Even to this day, if you type in elevateliveevents.com, it'll basically, the URL will go over to Elevate Experiences. We changed our name about 5 years ago because we just were wrestling with, like, we just don't want to do a live event. Like, we want it to be something different, because I went to a Justin Timberlake concert. He's my favorite artist of all time. And JT was singing this song, and people were yelling from the audience, "Justin, we love you." It was kind of between songs. And he took his in-ear monitor out and he said, "I love you too." And you just watch the crowd go, "Oh my gosh, he can hear us." And that engagement. And he said this phrase that just stuck with me. You know, one of those phrases, whether you're listening to a sermon or you're at an event or you hear a speaker or you're listening to a podcast, you're like, that is going to change everything. And I remember it clear as day. He said, "I do not want my music just to get in your ear. I want it to get in your blood." And I was like, oh, I looked over at my wife. I was like, yeah, that's kind of how I feel when it comes to creating things. So we talk about, we're not in the event business, we're in the undergo business. We want to help people undergo things. And so whether that's Disney or Columbia or WinShape or Chick-fil-A or Delta or all the brands you've had an opportunity to work with, we want to help the people that they serve undergo something where they go, "Man, I'm so proud to pay full price for that product or service." Or, "Man, I'm so proud to work here because this event was such a different thing." So that's a story to set it up. But I know, Sean, there's a lot of ways we think about experiences, right? We have the blocking and tackling of run of shows and the audio visual and some of those things, but I'll toss it to you on just how we think about experience creation.
I love that story every time you bring it up, Billy, because like I can envision it and picture it in my mind. And some of the best musical artists, they do this, and they might even now to a certain point do it intuitively, but at some point they had to work at it. And we're even at Elevate working behind the scenes to create, like, hey, here is a system, here is a plan that you can follow for how to create an experience and not just an event. Because I think about similar stories in my life. Like, how many classes in college, high school, elementary school did we attend that was like an event? It was a moment in time where people were gathered together and someone was happening. But how many do we actually remember because they were an experience where we're like, there was something different about it? And with experiences, we're even trying to think about what is a metaphor that we can use. We're a huge fan of Donald Miller. He has a couple of different metaphors or a couple of different systems, and we're trying to figure that out. And one of the things that we've landed on is, and we've talked about this for years, but we haven't put it to like an actual, like an image, right? And so what we're toying with is this image of a GPS or a road trip. And if you're in a car with a group of people and you're trying to reach a destination, which is a lot like what your event is, you want to move your audience from A to B. If you're a company putting on for your employees and it's like an awards banquet, you want your employees to walk in, and at the end, you want them to feel even more celebrated when they left, right? So there is an end goal, there is a destination, there's something you're trying to achieve. If it's an event for your customers, You might want to be selling new customers on a certain product, or you want to make them even more raving fans so that they bring their friends or something like that, right? If you go on a road trip, what's one of the first things you have to do is you have to type in the destination, right? You type into Google Maps, if you're sitting in Atlanta and you want to go to Chicago, well, you don't type in Detroit, you don't type in Phoenix, you type in where you actually want to end up. And so that's one of the first things that we talk about, and some of the questions at Elevate that we love asking. These are like two of our favorite questions to talk about, is when your audience is remembering this, when they're sharing this story of your event with their friends. What do you want them talking about? What do you want them feeling? What do you want them thinking? What do you want them feeling? And when you think about the audience as a person, you think about a whole person. You have your mind, your body, and your heart. If you plan an event, if you plan an experience, just thinking about the person's body, where are they going to sit? What are they going to eat? And the temperature in the room, but you don't think about their mind. What are they going to learn? You don't think about your heart. How are you going to inspire them? Then they're going to walk out of the room uninspired, and it's a kind of a cool party, right? Like they were there to have a good time. They were there in the room with you. So you really have to plan for all three things. Their mind, how are you going to engage them intellectually? What are they going to learn? Or what is it that they're going to like do and see? And then their heart, how are you going to inspire them? Or if you're like a nonprofit putting on a fundraiser, how are you going to like reach into their soul and help them feel the pain that you're trying to solve for the problem you're trying to solve, so that then they open up their wallet and they donate and they give, right? So there's all these different things, but really when you think about an experience with we're talking about the audience. How can I get my audience get from A to B? And you need to think about their mind, you need to think about their heart, and you need to think about them as a person, because also on the practical side, if you plan for the mind and you plan for the heart, but you don't think about breaks and bathrooms, they're going to be distracted. They're going to be sitting there like, I'm really hungry, I'm starving, and they didn't think about it. It's going to be distraction. Like look at, what's the Netflix show or the documentary that came out where it was the event and the logistics were awful, right? It's going to be like a super cool party in the islands, and then the logistics were just like, if you don't plan for the basics.
Right? When the FYRE Festival?
Yes, FYRE Fest, yes. That's what it was. So that's just a couple of the things that we think about at Elevate. There's a bunch more.
Yeah, and I've got this shirt on. If you can see, those of you watching, it says Harry Mack on it. And I'm so proud of this shirt. I just got it in the mail 2 days ago, and I'm a huge Harry Mack fan. Those of you that don't know him, look him up on YouTube. He is the best freestyle rapper of all time. Nobody's even close, for my personal opinion. And he does something really unique, and I'll tie this into your question of creating experiences. He walks around the street with a little MP3 player. He goes online and on Omegle, different places, and he asks people for a handful of words, usually 3 words, and he'll do a little 3 to 5 minute freestyle about it, but he'll give them so much more than they asked for. He will freestyle about literally everything going on, and not just like using the word, contextualizing the word, talking about things around it. And there's one particular story with him where he was freestyling on this platform called Omegle. And when he was on Omegle, there was this guy he freestyled for. And right after he finished, the guy was freaking out, loved it and all this. And the guy said, man, I wish my wife was here. And his wife had just died of COVID a few months earlier. And Harry Mack did a freestyle rap about his wife that just passed away. And it was one of the most heartfelt, sensitive, and connected things I've ever seen. I will never forget it. I've shared the story 100 times. Because he took that moment and didn't say, oh, I'm so sorry to hear about your wife. First thing he said was, he said, hey, can I write a song about her real fast? And he asked a few things about her. And then, dude, it was unbelievable. And that I'm getting chills thinking about that moment.
I'm getting chills. I'm about to cry. I haven't even seen the video.
It is unbelievable. Like you watch it, you're like, how in the world? And that is what we want people to feel. Because, right, you got to have a good microphone. You got to have the lighting. You got to have all the things in place. But once that happens, there's this magic. There's this pixie dust that's spread. And that's honestly, Mark, a big part of us is tough to sell. It's tough to sell pixie dust. Like Walt Disney has figured out how to do it, you know, and once people work with us and they feel the vibe and they see how we serve, they love it. But as you said, not many people put a DJ on a virtual event. That's what you felt was different. You're like, man, that's different that these guys are at a high level because of that. We're like, well, we thought to ourselves, we don't want this to be boring. How do we put music in it? So that's a bit of how we create experiences. Yeah. So many more of the stories are flooding my head of how we've had an opportunity to do that. But that's just kind of a snapshot of how we think the difference between an event and experiences.
You mentioned music, you mentioned that enthusiasm and stage presence. What are some other kind of key components that we'd say make a great, memorable experience?
Yeah, so the word enthusiasm means in theos, which means in God. So literally one of our values is enthusiasm. And we just believe, like, from a spiritual perspective, like there's just so much more to a moment, right? And not just a hype, fun dance party. I mean enthusiasm in the details. I mean enthusiasm in the event planning. I mean enthusiasm as you're creating the playlist. That permeates all of it. And we really just sort of hang our hat on that. So we had a after dark event that we did for a brand called America's Thrift Stores. They wanted to do this dance party for the next generation. And we spent a lot of time thinking about what does the next generation want to hear? What are the songs on TikTok right now going to work? Like, what are those particular songs? So it wasn't just let's play the music that works. For us, let's really figure out that. We thought to ourselves, what do we want them to see when they come in? So we thought about every piece of lighting that came in. We thought about what is the manager of that particular location's name? What's their favorite sports team? Like, we really get to know the audience as well. That's a huge part of it. I watched John Maxwell do this one time. John Maxwell was speaking in an event, and instead of getting behind stage and working on his talk, I watched him literally break the pipe and drape, which every event person hates, but he broke the pipe and drape, came back from behind the stage, went out and like shook everybody's hand in the first like 10 rows and just said hello. And he came back behind the stage, and another gentleman who was speaking and said, John, how do you, right before you're going to go out there, like just go shake people's hands? He's like, I realized a long time ago that this event is not about me. It's about the people that join. And so I make it more about them than about me. I was like, yes. And so that's another one too, is to really think about the people that are going to be there. What are they thinking about? What are they going through? We had an event with Chick-fil-A recently where they had to overhaul an entire department. This department was not performing well. They changed their core values. They changed their strategy. And we were the event right after they told all of them, basically, we're going to restructure it all. So people walked in like, oh my goodness. So we did activities that were fun, that were based on the 3 new things. Man, it was so cool to take what they were going into and already had created an event that were solidifying some of the things, some of the negative news they just heard, but flipping it to a positive. So I think that's why clients hire us. So you take some of those maybe challenging moments and don't just think about, let's just do an after party. Like, no, let's do something really, really intentional. So this is just some of the things that we think about outside of just the music itself.
Yeah, and Billy mentioned earlier that we're in the middle of, like, we have someone who's helping us with our website, and they're working on it. We should get it by the end of the week, like the first draft one of what it's going to look like. And part of that redesign is, as the world's evolving, we've been getting the same question that you're asking now more and more. And so we're in the process right now of creating a new free resource that we're going to offer on our website. The current working title, it might change, but the current working title is The Ultimate Guide to Eliminating Boring Events. Because that's kind of, it's kind of an internal mission that we have, and we're starting to talk about it more and more, is we want to eliminate the plague of boring meetings and events. And so, because it's a plague, like they're all over the place, right? And it's kind of spreading. And so we want to eliminate that plague. And so here's, like, we kind of have this divided into 2 different sections right now. And the first section is, well, what are all of the things that will make a meeting or an event boring? And then the second half is, okay, now that we've identified what can make a meeting boring, what are some of the things that you can control in order to change it? And so, for example, I mean, you talked about, you even mentioned it, Mark, like, because we talked about concerts and things like silence. If someone says, and now introducing this person, and there's silence. Or if you hit play on a video and there's silence. The right music, the right video, it can kind of change it. And music is so important, just to touch on it again. If you're listening to this and you have access to YouTube and look up, I think it's Mrs. Doubtfire, like, horror film, because Mrs. Doubtfire, the movie with Robin Williams, is not a horror movie. It's Robin Williams. It's a comedy. It's like his kids go with his wife, and he wants to see them more, and so he dresses up as a nanny. It's supposed to be like super funny, and I remember it. It's a funny movie, but someone took the trailer, like the preview of that movie, and put it to our horror film movie soundtrack. And it is terrifying. Like, you watch this thing and you're like, what am I about to watch? And so music can absolutely change the moment. There's another great YouTube video. There's a stand-up comedian named Tim Hawkins, and he does like a bit, and where a friend of his, he was telling a story that a friend of his is like, yeah, will you come and play music at my wedding? Great. What do you want me to play? He's like, you choose. are you sure? And he starts going through all the songs you should never play at a wedding, like, and I still haven't found what I'm looking for, like songs like that. And so if you play the right song at the right time, oh man, it just enhances everything. It makes it so better. If you call someone's name, they are winning an award, they're coming down front, then, and the MC is on point, the music is on point, the song choice is on point, the level of the music in the room is on point, then the room is just rocking, everyone's having a good time, people are clapping, the person's dancing on their way up. But if you choose the wrong song at like that perfect time, you could have everything else right, but the song choice makes such a huge difference. So that's just like one part of it.
Yeah, I'm actually recalling an experience. I was working a challenge course program. This is a number of years ago. It was adult professionals were arriving, and it was a pretty international audience, and there wasn't a whole lot of effort that was put into the inspirational soundtrack that was playing as they got off the buses, and
Who let the dogs out? Like,
no, it was older. No, it was like 80s, like Holding On to a Hero was the song that was playing when they got off the bus. And I saw several people just get off the bus and say, like, they swore. They're like, what are we doing out in the boonies? Like, am I in some redneck hick place? They thought they were in some sort of time warp, and it changed their impression of the experience. And we had to work hard to get them back to a place of neutral before we could even do positive things. So I'm thinking of that moment and the look on that person's face, like, where am I?
I have an event coming up here in a few weeks that is going to be at the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta. And it's a group called Aero Exterminators. They're an incredible organization. They're bringing all their leaders to do this day-long leadership event. And then at night, they're going over to the College Football Hall of Fame to do dinner. And they're just going to have hors d'oeuvres. They got this nice little half football field. And it's like you see the College Football Hall of Fame. It's a cool spot. And I just asked one question. I said, hey, who's doing entertainment for you that night at the event? He said, well, it's just going to be hors d'oeuvres and, just kind of food. I said, well, what if you had college football songs being played and you had the announcements of certain people, and we could actually customize some of the music to some of the folks that are there, if they love Alabama or Auburn or Georgia or whatever, or Florida, sorry, Sean, whatever team they like. What if we were able to play those songs? He said, oh my gosh, that would make it so much better, is the word that he said. And so I pitched him. I said, hey, we can come do that event that night. He said, yes. Let me talk to my event planner, see if that will work. But just that addition of music that will connect the dots is everything. So yeah, we could talk a lot more about this one, but I'm sure you have other questions for us.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to part one of our conversation with Billy Boughey and Sean Specie of Elevate Experiences. Stay tuned for part two. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave a review, tell a friend, give us a gold star, or call my grandma. And if you want unforgettable events and training that's fun, like for real fun, get started today at workplaysolutions.com. I know I want that. Boo, boo, boo.